Do you want to know how to hold YouTube hostage? It's actually pretty easy. Carlos Maza has shown us. Carlos makes politically one-sided YouTube videos for Vox, a very left-leaning media site, which in itself is fine. However, we also have Steven Crowder, a political commentator / comedian who generally makes politically one-sided videos only on the right, which again is fine. Now, Crowder's made several response videos to Carlos in which he has mockingly referred to Carlos's sexuality in an insulting and negative way. On May 30th, Carlos drew attention to this on Twitter. However, curiously, Carlos did not attack Crowder, rather saved the bulk of his fury for attacking YouTube itself, attacking the entire platform for failing to enforce its harassment policies against Crowder. Now, I feel that this is where most people get this story wrong. They focus on Crowder's mocking and derogatory use of the words gay and queer, but that's actually mostly irrelevant to Carlos's claim. You see, when Carlos initially called out Crowder, his focus was not on hate speech, but harassment. That whenever Crowder makes a response video to Carlos, Carlos receives waves of negative comments on his videos. And this is why Carlos's complaint to YouTube was doomed to fail from the beginning. I mean, just imagine yourself if YouTube held creators responsible for their audience leaving negative comments on other people's videos. No more iDubbbz Content Cop. No Philly D calling out child abusers. No Sam Cedar explicitly telling his fans to send Dave Rubin messages demanding that they debate. No makeup drama. No drama of any kind, really. No more commentary channels. It should be obvious to everyone that YouTube would never start that precedent and would never agree with Carlos's definition of harassment. So as we all should have expected from how Carlos framed his complaint, YouTube said that yeah, Crowder's comments are hurtful and obnoxious and terrible, but it's not harassment. Now, if Crowder had gone and told his fans to spam negative comments at Carlos, maybe there'd be an argument. But Crowder didn't do that. The whole focus on Crowder using the terms gay and queer mockingly, something I don't agree with, by the way, is all a distraction. Because if Crowder had instead simply called Carlos dumb or stupid, Carlos would have gotten the same amount of negative comments. Nothing would actually change. And that's what reveals the truth of Carlos's cries of harassment. He even says himself he doesn't want to spend a lot of time making a video just to have people criticize it. Which, yeah, I mean, that sucks.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
I'm afraid that's just how life works. The alternative would just be crazy amounts of censorship. Wait a minute. You want in-shape, attractive gay males banned from Instagram because it makes you feel bad about yourself? And you've also directly advocated for people to physically assault political candidates they don't like and humiliate them? It's almost like you're a total hypocrite, holding the rest of the world responsible for your own personal insecurities, and just want to see the YouTube platform destroyed. Oh, wait a minute, you flat out admit you want to see the YouTube platform destroyed. Well, I guess with all these channels being demonetized because of your actions, I guess it's a good thing that you're paid by Vox Media, not YouTube, as it won't affect you. Wait a minute. All the Vox employees were planning to go on strike right before this incident? Isn't that convenient? It's almost like you wanted to drum up a bunch of publicity for yourself so that you could create your own brand, so that you can negotiate for more money. I mean, that would just be so convenient. The whole gay queer thing from Crowder is merely an excuse, a way for Carlos to frame his argument. It's not really the problem Carlos is trying to put forward. But of course, the story doesn't end there. As the title of this video will tell you, Carlos obviously wasn't happy with YouTube's response, and neither were his journalist friends. So then begins the torrent of articles attacking not Crowder, but YouTube, the platform, claiming YouTube itself is a hive of scum and villainy. Yes, Carlos and his journalist friends have taken this scorched earth approach of trying to start another mass advertiser boycott, harming tens of thousands of YouTubers just to get one person. Carlos went straight from zero to Daenerys. And this is where things get disturbing. The next day, YouTube raised the white flag of surrender. They said that in response to the outcry, they're demonetizing Crowder's entire channel. And the reasoning they gave was strangely transparent. They said they've punished Crowder not because he violated their policies, rather to prevent harm to the broader community. They then linked to a blog post that was written in response to Logan Paul's antics in Japan, explaining what that means. Recently, we face situations where the egregious actions of a handful of YouTubers harm the reputations of the broader creator community among advertisers, the media industry, and most importantly, the general public. In light of this behavior, and our commitment to tighten our policies and communicate them more quickly and transparently, we're introducing new consequences to apply in the rare event when one creator's actions harm the entire community. What that all means is that YouTube is explicitly telling journalists, hey, if you write enough bad articles about someone you don't like, we'll cave. We'll punish them just to prevent another advertiser boycott. So please, keep writing articles attacking us. We will do whatever you want. And that's the real danger that I don't believe is being focused on enough. Sure, companies cave to bad press all the time, but what company flat out makes it part of their policy and broadcasts it to their enemies? And I'm not using the term enemy hyperbolically. News media hates YouTube. Every time someone gets news or political commentary on YouTube, the news media views it as YouTube stealing potential money from them. And with these outlets only losing more and more money every year, and YouTube's audience only growing, the writing's on the wall. They fear this new challenger encroaching into their territory. All these articles they're writing about radicalization or conspiracy stuff, it's all just a cover to attack a competitor. And YouTube keeps giving in! They keep changing the algorithm, making it so that supposed mainstream sources will be the only ones that appear at the top of the search results for news stories. But the media doesn't care. They won't stop until all independent news and political voices are gone. Yet YouTube and Susan don't seem to understand that their strategy of appeasement ain't working. If you give in to hostage takers, it only emboldens them. Now maybe you're saying, Sitch, why should I care? I don't like Steven Crowder, and you yourself said that you don't like what he said either. Because, my friends, this isn't going to end with Crowder. It's not even going to end with just attacking people on the right. Look at this crazy New York Times article on the front page claiming YouTube is radicalizing people. And who do they put on the front page under that very scary headline? Why, Philip DeFranco and ContraPoints. This whole article is a joke. The guy who was supposedly radicalized first claims he got turned to the tiki right by YouTube. And yeah, I have to say tiki right because I can't even say the word for fear of demonetization. But then if you keep reading the article, you find out YouTube actually switched his political opinion from right-wing to left-wing, thus destroying the entire narrative of the article. Except the author actually calls ContraPoints and Destiny radicals too, calling them just the left-wing version of the supposed scary radicalizing right-wing rabbit hole, and says people should just stop getting their information from YouTube altogether. Yet apparently, ContraPoints missed this insult against her and even retweeted the article. You think it's a coincidence they put Philly D, one of the biggest news commentators, and ContraPoints, who people have been trying to push so heavily, on the front page of the New York Times under the term radical? Of course not. They know exactly what they're doing. And it even gets worse. CNET wrote an article attacking video game YouTubers for being too angry. They name people like Angry Joe, Jim Sterling, and The Quartering as being prime offenders of daring to be too emotional. The author of this article even went so far as to contact advertisers that appeared on The Quartering's channel and strong-armed them into dropping ads from his videos because he was too angry about video games. It's important to note that these were not companies directly sponsoring the Quartering's videos, merely companies whose ads appeared before the video. This is the same attack journalists used to start the first adpocalypse. All it would take for all these YouTubers to be removed from the platform or lose their monetization would be multiple journalists to decide being angry about video games is some kind of dangerous threat and write multiple articles attacking YouTube for daring to house such content. All it takes is for one crazy person to harm or kill a bunch of people. One crazy person who also happens to watch video game content on YouTube. That's all the excuse they would need to start their attack. Ironically, Maza's actions against Crowder in drumming up an angry mob of journalists to have him removed aligns far more with YouTube's harassment policy than anything Crowder has done. And these tactics by Maza are not a coincidence. In his own Vox videos, he has laid out the groundwork for this strategy.
Stories that are laden with emotion, connect to our identities, and is morally arousing are the types of stories that are going to get people engaged the most.
Normally, the check on this kind of garbage would be advertisers. Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh can be jerks all they want, but at the end of the day, their bosses have to worry about corporations freaking out and pulling their ads. But YouTube is different. Advertisers rarely know what videos their ads are going to show up on. In March this year, a group of 250 brands pulled back from YouTube after reports that their ads were appearing before extremist content. As a result, YouTube demonetized a ton of videos without much explanation. Political content creators, including ones who weren't peddling hate or conspiracy theories, were affected by it.
Even Jimmy Dore, who is on the left politically and has a strong dislike of Crowder, is calling this out.
And he feels humiliated? That's ridiculous. Why would you let them have that power to humiliate you? That's a fucking thing you're supposed to teach a child. So he's from a mainstream news organization that wants to shut down YouTube anyway because they'll get the advertising revenue. YouTube is cutting into their advertising revenue heavy, which is why CNN does all that bullshit hit articles on YouTubers, and Washington Post backs them up, and so does the Wall Street Journal. The ad revenue isn't the problem, it's the platform. That's a little chilling. That means like, hey, we gotta fucking either get rid of this platform or clamp down heavy. That's what it sounds like to me. What this does is it makes people more willing to passively accept censorship. In fact, he's not against harassing people who disagreed with politically, because here he is, he's saying milkshake them all, humiliate them at every turn, make them dread public organizing. That's actual physical violence. He's instigating and endorsing physical violence because you don't agree with someone's politics. And now he's crying victim.
Now, my personal opinion on this is that I disagree completely with Crowder mocking Maza's sexuality, just as I would disagree with a YouTuber referring to someone as a white boy or Jew repeatedly with a negative connotation. And if YouTube wanted to demonetize or even remove those specific videos and told Crowder that he was violating their hate speech policy, I wouldn't really have a problem with that. But they didn't do that. Instead, they gave into the online journalist mob. That all being said, I find Maza's behavior in all this far more despicable, as his attacks are on all of YouTube, and trying to start another advertiser boycott shows he's willing to sacrifice tens of thousands of YouTubers who have nothing to do with any of this, all for his own personal vendetta, all because someone called him names on the internet. Maza's actions are far more evil than anything Crowder did. So that's how you hold YouTube hostage. You just be a journalist or have a bunch of journalist friends and you complain about YouTube. YouTube has given all this power to people who hate the platform and everything it represents. A gatekeeper-free platform.
In an ideal world, political journalism looks like this. On either side, you've got the parties, fighting for the attention of the press. And in the middle, you've got journalists, sorting through what's important and what's just partisan bullshit. This is called gatekeeping, and it's one of the most important things journalists do.
This is called gatekeeping, and it's one of the most important things journalists do.
We can only hope that one day YouTube will get a CEO that realizes every time they give in to their enemies, it only makes their enemies stronger.